Massachusetts right now, you see that they're having black businesses who receive licenses are still having trouble getting the funding to start their license. So, then you're going to see big companies come in and say, oh, we'll do a management deal with you, end up taking a lion's share of that deal, leaving you with how many profits, leaving you with, what was the point of even doing that in the first place? I'm going to be a manager of a 7-Eleven.
Which is what's happening in Oakland, which is already pre-happening in LA County in California, because no one's been able to start their program out yet. So here's what happens when you may consider an equity program opportunity. You may apply, you submit. In most cases, throughout that process of applying and putting together a team and bringing all that out, you need to have property. You need to have an LOI. You need to have a letter of intent. They're going to expect you to more than likely pay rent on that property while you wait to get your stuff together, and then apply, and then wait for the county or the state to decide they're going to book review and then award licenses.
That happened in LA for this last dispensary round. They just did an equity round for 100 retail licenses. So they had 2 tiers of verification, tier 1, tier 2, depending on your qualifications or the criteria. But you did have to have an LOI to be involved in that as well.
So you're waiting potentially 6 to 9 months for something while spending maybe $25,000 to $100,000 a month on property, and you're getting black tax. Let's just be clear, right? So on top of that, you spend all this money with your lobbyists as well, and with whatever community organization that you're working with to help you push this through, and you more than likely may not get that. So you spend this money that you can't get refunded back, you can't get returned back. None of that comes back to you as you wait in this process. Now, does that mean that there's no one that's been able to do it? That's not what we're saying, but those percentages are still real. There's only less than 2% plant-touching businesses in the space.
So what is equity, right? So really taking into consideration all that we've been through, right? And why we are not able to fully participate in the way that others are. And then providing systems and ways in order for us to embark upon these things.
It's about opportunity. I think that the issue with equity, using it as a term, is ownership, right? We want to own something. We don't just want an economic opportunity to work in it. We want to own it and be able to build it. And right now, all of the opportunities have obstacle upon obstacle upon obstacle, starting with the fact that in a lot of these states, if you even have a conviction related to marijuana, you're not allowed to participate. So essentially, we've decided from the door, for some of the states, that equity doesn't include a large percentage of the money, right, or the legacy market where the wealth is earned.
I mentioned earlier a large problem is the federal legislation that needs to occur to unlock some of the federal landscape with trust lands. Aside from that, we have a lot of policy and politics involved on the reservation landscape, which I mentioned earlier with the comment about not being Christian nations. From an equity landscape, we just want the freedom to be able to pray how we want to pray at the end of the day.
So I'm gonna throw something else into the pot on that. In my previous life, I wrote bank returns, and in the last 6 weeks or so, maybe 2 months, I've been approached by 3 different organizations asking how they can start banks on tribal lands to use American to use cannabis money. So if you think about the past is the past. I mean, we're almost at the end of this cycle of the new frontier, but they're already thinking about the next frontier. So before long, they'll be controlling the finances. In the trouble, they'll see that fixed. Once they got the banks in trouble, they'll get that fixed. So we've got to we've got to fix what we can here. We've got to take 4 or 5 steps there, because this is moving at paces that we can't even imagine how far they're talking about Bitcoin and all these things on tribal land. So
And never a no. That is, it's always a not yet, not right now, we're going a different route. But no, don't have it.
So they are making provisions in making items accessible to cannabis plant touching based businesses in different states. That is happening. Things happening with major investment firms and insurance firms. That's happening. So when we say things like, going from Mount Street to Wall Street, that's already happening, that's already established. Big tobacco's already in it, alcohol's already in it, pharma's already in it. These industries are already in it. VC firms are already in it, hedge funds are already in
Go
it.
look at like some of the raises of the biggest MSOs and look at how many venture firms have donated or like contributed to that organization. You'll see at least 5 to 10 per MSO.
We're going to talk about opportunities later. Tribal land opportunities. So they'll be able to use that,
Yeah.
take the tax break and move all this capital gain money in the tribe
And
wipe
to
out
even
more.
highlight your example, there's a state-recognized tribe that I'm supporting as best as I can, given what is happening, the Shinnecock in Long Island. The only way that we were able to get a land something for them to start growing hemp was I had to get a white-owned company to pretty much partner with them to make this happen. Do I trust this white-owned company? I don't even know. But the whole point was that Shinnecock Nation wanted to start doing something with the land that they had and had to go through all of this stuff, given the state recognition of the tribe, to start growing. Will that be something that can manifest into money that comes into the tribe? Yes. But that opportunity in itself went through a lot of loopholes, and because this was led by a white-owned company that is 30th in the nation of land ownership, that's the reason why they didn't have all this red tape. So it's taking that type of recognition and capital to subvert laws, state and federally, to even offer opportunity to native people, which is what a lot of these deals, when you say under 20 years recognized and working within the federal provision of what's happening in marijuana, it's being led by large firms, correct?
Yes. And most, and with the exception of what, and many of you know the work that Winona was doing in her communities in Minnesota with the hemp industry, and that's just, having the conversation also about raising the bar about what we're putting into our bodies, because when we talk about what states are doing it right, the environmental depredations that are occurring within some of these grow operations, the chemicals that are being used, the toxicity within what we consider, spiritual medicine. I think it's starting that conversation about how we raise the bar, about how we take care of our water during the whole grow process, and the whole spectrum of it. But the equity conversation around state and federally recognized tribes, this is a whole nother monster. We could have our own.
Yeah.
We will be having our own indigenous groups in Canada.
I definitely want to connect with you. I want to ask everybody, because I see I'm looking at us like, what the hell just happened? Who knows what we're talking about right now? Who doesn't? Please raise your hand and be honest.
To clarify, I said MSO, I meant multi-state operator.
Okay.
So meaning that they own multiple licenses in different states. Or
states.
no, licenses in different states, rather.
Okay. I get it now.
So I love that you guys have been talking about just your various experiences in equity and fighting for equity, what it all means, and the challenges that continuously present themselves. I know that there's always new challenges to prevent us from getting has the meaning of social equity changed as legalization has been rolling out? Because we weren't talking about equity at the start of the industry, right? It was just like diversity, I mean, that goes through all of the conversations about diversity in the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how that has shifted as legalization has rolled out.
It's a buzzword that a lot of big white corporations that are trying to transition in, they know right now thanks to the internet, the gram, you only gotta say a couple things, you only gotta hashtag a couple things for people to believe. Not my fault, I'm sorry. For people to believe that that you actually figure out. Hello. But basically what we found is that the larger white corporations, especially the ones that really understand brand marketing, as more corporate to cannabis crossovers happen, again, this is the world that I came from, they understand the buzzwords and they've also figured out multicultural marketing. We care if Dove decided how they were going to speak to us, it was offensive, and now we're not shopping them. People are paying attention. Equity is, thank you.
Equity is that buzzword that has happened in the last 18 months as more Black and brown folks have started to be excited and aware of health and wellness benefits, but also economic and wealth generating opportunities. We also are now aware of markets coming into our world, right? So California and all these big states start to become legalized, and you're like, well, I want to shop the legal market. And now this is a way for big companies, in my opinion, to start to gain our dollar and our trust on really just words, because they're not actually helping to make equity work. I have a lot of direct experience working with largely white male C-suites where I'm the only inserted C-suite member that is intended to create the strategy, help execute it, direct it, determine what the communication strategy is. So I know very clearly, even firsthand, that that is what is happening. We have this movement of sort of, I just feel like it's a smoke and mirror. It's not real. It's not led by us, and they may have one or two. And I can even raise my hand and say, when after the fact, you realize you may be a token when you come in, right? Woo! You bounce, and you're like, nah, I'm not trying to do that. You can easily adjust yourself and pivot. I play ball, so I can go step.
You can utilize tokenism the way, look, we have to be real here.
Yes.
We all had to utilize tokenism in this space to do some ish so we can collectively understand what's really happening. Right. If you want to sit here and say you haven't done that, you're a liar, because I know you and I've talked to you on the phone. But I will say, on top of that, you know, no shade, but Jay-Z getting a deal and Christopher Wallace's son getting a deal ain't equity. It's not coming back to you.
Correct.
It's a white label deal that's going to allow them to utilize the product that they get from the source. White label put their face on it and then go speak about it on a panel. That's not equity. That doesn't mean anything. It's not going to benefit you, and it doesn't benefit us. They're not going to put us in the room with them. They're not going to put you in the room with them. It's just a way for you to just go buy their stuff because you think Jay-Z is a good businessman because you thought he owned Barclays for something. So, at the end, I'm just being real, because we have to dissect what these things, when we see certain people from our community being lifted up in these ways,
They're
like,
representing a lot of us.
Right.
And we're voiceless in that regard. I haven't been able to speak to Jay-Z. Nobody knows
But he has the money.
Snoop Dogg doesn't invest in any black-owned companies with prosperity. It's a fact. Like, I'm not saying it to be rude.
Kevin
It's a
Durant's
fact.
company just invested in one of these multi-state operators, and that's 35 Ventures. Look it up.
Right? So when you have, there is literally a list.
He's from the DMV.
Right. And there's a list that we all know and all share of who's black and owned or black and ancillary in this space. And we are still telling others, like, the equity that you think that others are getting that are celebrities or have different positioning is not even close to what we're talking about as far as equity being acquired in Canada.
I was just gonna say, I've been, just from being here in 2016, and it's been, the reason that a lot of us are tired is because we've had these talks, and it's now more about doing, right? Like, we've talked about it, we've said it, equity, now what are we gonna do about it, right? And it's not good enough to just be black, right? We know that we have to work harder, we know that some of these licenses, they may have a sliver of them that are set out for us, but we have to come to the table as prepared as everybody else does, regardless if you have money or not. Preparation doesn't cost money. All right, so that's just something that people need to really get across and just understand, like, how, you already know they're going to look at you a certain way if you're asking for money, if you're trying to approach somebody. So really just take that into consideration and make sure your P's and Q's, your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, all these things.
I also listen about the money part, because at the end of the day, all these processes take money.
Dollars.
Yeah.
Dollars.
Like Ariel funds, John Rogers always complaining we can't get enough money. But if he would invest in making sure black people got licenses, then he'd have a place to invest money. I mean, there's a short-sightedness in all these people in terms of what it would take to grow the pot for everyone. I mean, the Koch brothers spent a lot of money to get what they wanted. I mean, they didn't wait for charity. They put billions of dollars to influence the process.
May I ask you, on top of the question, that is a question I'm sure you may ask, but just to make sure it's okay, can you break down for the audience the capital required to start a plant-touching business?
So I don't know the exact number. I mean, I know
Okay,
a license.
we can jump in.
I know a license.
Without like even going there, yeah, reality is that
Yeah, you need
equity
to mix some
doesn't
milk,
work because
right?
we don't have enough resources, and we also don't have enough people that come to the table and take cannabis seriously. So I'll be honest, if you're coming to the table still, really only understanding the street terms and you just think folks are
If you
trying to
think
get
Bob is a
high.
strain, it's not it. Bob is not a strain, bro.
Yes, and if you still call it a strange strand, then we do have a problem as well. Like, it's not a strand, it's just actually a strain. And so that means I've already lost my business.
But